Hey, Chase here, returning to our regularly scheduled science fiction, and generally book-related content. I had a difficult time getting content made during the holidays. It was a busy period for me, and now I've changed over to working night shift, and it's also keeping me busy. I apologize for the delay and the plethora of random highlight videos. Speaking of video games, today's background footage is from the game Subnautica. I know I already used some footage from Subnautica Below Zero, which is actually the second game in the series and takes place about 2 years after this one. I got stuck on my first playthrough of this game, and out of frustration went on to the second game. Now that I've beaten the second game, I'm revisiting the first. I figured it was a relevant choice to today's topic, as uses background footage. For today's topic, I recently read Aldus Huxley's 1932 book, A Brave New World. I read this book a few days ago, and I had to let it simmer before I tried to write this script. I didn't give it... It didn't give me much to think about at first, until I looked at the publication date, and then it gave me much to think about. I know that's kind of a confusing statement, so let me explain. Because knowing the context the book was written in gives me much more meaning, or gives it much more meaning in relation to both today's social norms and the world's events depicted in the book. I'll try and do this without spoilers, or at least if I can avoid it. The ending snuck up on me, and I felt like it was just getting good and really going places when the ending slapped me in the face. I feel like the book should have been 20% longer. And the beginning was kind of slow, but if you're reading it, then read it. And the beginning was, a slog, but it is important. It's world building. It sets the stage for the middle and the end of the book, where the juicy stuff happens. There's a damn fish. Go away. I don't want this guy to come back. I'm gonna chase him. You can't get away from me. You're gonna run out of water. How tough is this thing? Come on. He's gonna run away again. Eat my little knife. Pointy part first. Whatever. I give up. He's not gonna bother us. See, he's over there. And I can look at all my stuff. Where was I? The beginning is kind of a slog, but it's important. It's world building. It sets the stage for the middle and the end of the book, where the juicy stuff happens with the savage. As this unfolds, the stuff, and by stuff I mean the culture, the technology, the usage and production, or the usage of products, it's all reasonable, believable, almost modern. Oh, he did come back. So, as the story unfolds, the stuff, and by stuff I mean the culture, the technology, the usage of products, is all reasonable and believable, almost modern. At least if the private ownership of helicopters was more available. The only thing that struck me as a really weird thing was the class system, the eugenics, as no humans were born anymore. And despite the abundance of for lack of a gentler way to put it, despite the abundance of sex and the polyamorous relationships and marriage being non-existent, there was no real births anymore, and there hadn't been for hundreds of years. Instead, the people were grown in test tubes, engineered and mass-produced to fit specific social classes, to do specific jobs, and fill the roles in society. They were intentionally stunted with bad nutrients and alcohol and temperature fluctuations to make lots of semi-morons and other beta and delta class citizens, and only the alpha class people, being of normal operable intelligence, being the only ones that were not intentionally hindered to one degree or another, were, the cream of the crop. It didn't stop there after being decanted instead of born, because no one was born anymore. After decanting, they were trained, indoctrinated, hypnotized with the power of suggestion, not just during their waking hours, but as they slept. Machines repeated hundreds of thousands of times phrases and ideas, planting them down in their subconscious, making deep, inexplicable core memories that could not be ignored, that they were compelled to follow these prescribed social norms. And, most things, most freedoms, if you want to put it that way, had been sacrificed in the pursuit of happiness. Things like art and science had been replaced with instant gratification and escapism. None of that felt really out of place, or unbelievable, perhaps, if a bit extreme, but not out of the realm of possibilities. I won't spoil it any more than I already have. Just know that it made me reflect on things like eugenics and social engineering and mass media controlling private lives and decisions. No big deal. That kind of stuff happens all the time, right?
Passing 100 meters.
And that's when I realized this book was published in 1932. My first thought was that the idea is like every middle-class man owning a helicopter and the whole world in one big open relationship with itself and the internet. Those were all pretty wild ideas back then. But now that I thought a little more about it, in 1932 and their ideas, and that was beyond wild. And then I thought about the events of the book and the way the world is now. I think Brave New World is a warning, and we're already halfway there to what Aldous Huxley was warning us about. And that is what terrified me. That is what shook me. It's been days, and I'm still upset about it. Our society has come so far since 1932, and sure, some of those things are great, like the internet and medical care and prosthetics and spaceflight and science and technology and electric cars and all that good stuff. But not all of this stuff has been good, and not all of those cultural changes were for the better either. Obviously, this is my personal opinion, and I'm not telling you what to think, or that I am right and you are wrong, or anything like that. I'm merely telling you that we as a people, as a society, as a species, need to think more and need to do more carefully. Do things more carefully. To choose our path going forward more carefully, and be sure that that's what we want, and avoid or mitigate as many of the unintended consequences and side effects as we can. If you like science fiction, it's a good book, especially in light of its publication date. If you want more than just a story, then I beg you even harder to read Brave New World, to think about it and decide where you stand, if you want the happiness or if you want the truth. My own books, The Descendant, are available. I'm just having a terrible time. My cat is not helping.
Aurora, we're approaching the planet now.
My own books, The Descendant Saga, are available on Amazon, and there will be a link down in the description to the first book, and the second book is coming soon. I don't have an exact date, but the planned launch is sometime in the beginning of 2022. The ideas about questioning society and cultural decisions are in The Descendant too, but it takes more than one book. There's more to the story. The message is more spread out over the series, which is planned to be 9 books in total. I have the first 4 written, and I've made a good start on the 5th book, though as of late I've gotten pulled into many side projects and blogging and YouTube and social media and marketing and so on. If you want to see more of The Descendant, please drop me a like, subscribe for future content like this. There will be more book reviews and discussions about scientific principles that are heavily used in science fiction in the future, as well as more updates and announcements about the rest of my books that are coming. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you there.